Welcome everyone for those who join us now, later, and who are listening to the recording later on this evening. My name is Matthew Glezos. I'm the co-founder of Toronto DAO, and we have a very special guest. We have Krim from Hive.io. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sorry about that. I was off making a post and then I got locked out of my mic. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited. Yeah, looking forward to chatting.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, I'm also guilty of just being like, oh, yeah, this is going to be awesome.
Well, and I have a setup here so that I can do, chatting while I'm on my PC. So I actually jump into spaces while I'm on my PC, and then I've got a couple phones going. And so more often than not, I'll do something dumb and I'll lose my window, or I'll, drop a phone on the ground. And then the whole trick is to sound professional while panicking majorly in the background.
I'm going to age myself a bit here, but I remember the movie from I think it was Big Daddy, where the Adam Sandler walks in unknowingly on a surprise party, and they're all like surprise, but it was for the other guy, and then the guy just walks in 5 minutes later, and they're like, oh, surprise, we ruined the good surprise on you.
Yeah, pretty similar. And there's definitely been times where I think I'm talking from one account, or it's the dangers of managing multi-identities, which, portable identity tech is something we're going to talk a little bit about today. So yeah, it's the hazards of living in a terminally online world.
Yeah, and I've got my little groove on my chair from not leaving it.
The perfect butt dent.
Yeah. So why don't we get things going with just a simple introduction? Why don't you tell me about Hive.io?
Yeah, absolutely. So Hive.io is the website. You can go there if you want to learn a little bit more about the Hive blockchain. So Hive is sort of an OG player that has been under the radar for sure. It is a blockchain that was built specifically to power SocialFi. And when we say SocialFi, I don't mean what the last couple times it's been attempted, the meta, what that's kind of expressed itself as. Not necessarily, hey, tokenize your friends, pull them and their capital in, and then dump on their heads. That's not SocialFi. Hive was specifically created to put all of your valuable data on the blockchain at base layer alongside financial data. Now, what the heck does that mean? It means that the Hive blockchain holds social identity, social value, and social transactions at the base layer with the same value as your, sending money back and forth or trading assets or NFTs. So what that means is censorship resistant social. It means immutable content, likes, follows, all sorts of things that you're used to on Web2 or traditional social media, having those backed up on a truly decentralized blockchain that's fast, that doesn't have fees, all the things that get in the way of a really good Web3 experience. So this blockchain was born out of one of the biggest 51% attacks in the world, and it became this kind of rallying cry for grassroots and cypherpunks and people who really wanted to create a space that was equitable, that started using blockchain for something different, that made it open and accessible to everybody, and tried to solve some of the problems that we have with social media or games connected to social. So we're fast, we're fearless, we're freedom tech, and we are built to connect you to where you want to be, whether that's Web 2, Web 3, somewhere in between. And we want to make it easy.
So you mentioned the 51% attack. You're referring to Steemit, right? Or
I am indeed. So we had a legacy blockchain, and it's always fun to tell this story because here's a great example of how important it is to think about your naming in your products and your verticals. The blockchain was called Steem. It was owned and built by a company called Steemit Inc. And the main DApp and sort of the flagship that it was built to power was Steemit, the website. So you had Steemit, buy Steemit on Steam. And it was a very sort of rough prototype of, hey, what if every time you got on Reddit and you posted content and somebody upvoted or downvoted, it allocated tokens? What would that look like? That'd be interesting. We'll call it proof of brain. It means the people moving around making content and curating content on this website, they're using their brains. They're real people. They're doing something that is valuable that most social media sites monetize, that doesn't look like a regular transaction. It doesn't look like a coin moving from place to place. And so that was a great idea. And it became beloved. It exploded in 2017. And the community that evolved around Steem was this powerful place where you had high tech, like really um, esoteric knowledge, crazy nerds alongside like people's grandmas sharing pictures of cats, the way that social media is supposed to be. And it was awesome for quite a while. But the main blockchain and the main Steemit site were really sort of all the team had the focus on, the team that owned um, the code base and did most of the work. And the problem became the community started using the blockchain for cool stuff. Splinterlands, one of the biggest and most popular and longest running Web3 games in the world, was built on top of Steem. And a bunch of other front ends came about, and it became this bustling, lively place. And everybody's favorite crypto villain, Justin Sun, decided that he would like to buy this community. This was a valuable community to him. So he went to the Steemit Inc. team. He made a deal to buy not just, the Steemit Inc. holdings, the brandings, the code base, but also the development fund that the Steemit Inc. team had and had never used for governance voting. And proceeded to use that fund to vote in a bunch of his own block producers, and essentially took control of the network using this amazing giant amount of stake that had always been out of play. And this happens across the crypto space over and over. We got to be worried about founders and VC tokens and vested funds that are kind of always like a sword of Damocles in the background. So the battle for Steem was on. The community was powering up. They were voting together. They were buying as much Steem as they could. They were getting everything they could to throw behind community block producers. And for a while there, they actually wrested back control of the blockchain. Everyone was watching it from Vitalik. You could find incredible articles on Decrypt about it. And it was looking like the good guys were going to win. The community was going to get back in control of having a truly decentralized consensus. And then Justin Sun managed to actually convince some of the centralized exchanges. I believe at the time it was Huobi, Poloniex, and Binance. He told them that Steem was being attacked, and he had them power up customer stake that people were holding and trading and had liquid on the exchanges. They powered it up and used it to vote for Justin Sun's block producers because they were told that a serious attack was happening and they were needed to help, which of course was not the case. So this became a huge deal. And again, this kind of signaled the turning point. How, after trust like this is broken, not only by centralized exchanges, but lies by founders, all of the things were coming to a head, and the community, the witnesses, the people who had been contributing these projects and really building out what made Steem amazing said, you know what? Have it. Have the chain. We can't fight you on these terms, and we don't want to. Keep your chain. We will go. We will fork. We will make a new chain, and we will make sure that it holds all of the ideologies that we hold dear. We will take all of our history, and we will move forward without you. And that's what we're going to do. So in the space of about a month, from February to March, the Hive code base was forked. The DAO was created. So all of the funds that had been bought up and had been part of this developer fund before were put in a trustless, keyless account. There was a lot of things that had to come together in 1 month. And Hive launched. And ever since, it has had 100% uptime. It has gone through 3 major hard forks, and it might be the only blockchain that has ever forked off from the legacy chain. And since day one, outperformed, outlived, outlasted, and has a higher price than the original chain. And for us, that's huge. And we're so proud of it because this is truly community run, community owned, community built. The code base is open source. All of the dapps and projects built on top of Hive are created by community, by businesses, by devs coming in who want to build in this space. We have no VC, no corporate influence, no structure, no company. We are a true DAO with a true DAO. Governance is open to everybody. Contributions are open to everybody, and anyone can use the open social graph that Hive represents. So it's a bit of a wild story for sure.
No, that's incredible. And like, congrats to you. That's such a huge accomplishment. It is a David versus Goliath story. And I'd just like to sort of put a pin in this to briefly remind people about why you shouldn't use exchanges to hold your cryptocurrency. I know a lot of them, they stake your crypto for you, and this is some of the consequences. And this goes the same for validators. If you look at the validators closely, Binance, for example, you can stake your Cardano, Injective,
Mm-hmm.
other crypto on different blockchains as a validator yourself, and you're still giving them that power. So keep an eye out for that. Don't stake your crypto on your exchanges. Just buy it and withdraw immediately. This is a very good reminder of why you should do that.
Yeah, definitely one of those things where, we hear not your keys, not your crypto. We hear a lot of takes on it. And unfortunately, there's so much about centralized exchanges that allows people to feel a little more confident, feel a bit safer. And I think in some ways, blasphemy of blasphemies, I think they are right now the best onboarding venue we have. But the most important thing we can do is every time we get somebody in, they've traded some fiat, they've got, a cryptocurrency, is like, okay, how do we channel them out of these places where the web 2 experience and sort of some of the friction is removed? How do we give them enough knowledge and confidence and tools to let them understand enough to move into a space where they're taking some ownership and some agency? And to be honest, social is a really good way of doing that, which is another one of the reasons why Hive has kind of got the tools that it has, is because most people, when you start throwing these high level financial terms at someone about yield and farming and staking, these aren't even that high, high knowledge, but they're very esoteric. If you're not a person who's studied economics, these really don't mean a lot to you. And then you get into restaking and compounding and liquidity and slippage and all of these terms that come along with trading. And it's so intimidating to someone who, let's face it, most people out there these days are either working paycheck to paycheck or they're saving a little bit. And they're already scared of what's happening in the fiat world. And what they've heard is that crypto is full of scams and they're going to lose all their money. So, how do you give them something that's like, okay, you know what I do know how to do? I do know how to like shit post on Twitter. Or I do know how to like say hi to my friends and play. Well, I'm going to age myself since we're talking about that. Farmville on Facebook. These are things that make sense. They're easy, but they're also the sort of basis of where people come together, where they teach each other, where they share, and how you inherently pick up little skills that will drive you into learning more about other things. So, in this case, self custodying your crypto or what you can do with it starts maybe with sharing a recipe on a blog site.
Yeah, and that's true. And it is, you bring up a good point, especially now with things have like economic uncertainty. When you don't have a lot of like, when your cash flow is not great, turning $100 into 95 sucks, you know?
Yep.
Um and, it just it seems symbolic, and you're counting every penny. So just to lose something on that, but I think it's really cool. Any onboarding project that makes it either cheap or free to get people involved, it does the industry a huge favor. And
And that's,
so I guess
yeah,
no, keep going, keep going.
I was
Sorry.
say, yeah, I think that's really what drove a lot of people to start experimenting and building both on the legacy blockchain and now on Hive, is because they came in from one sort of really sort of narrow thing. And for most people, that's either they started blogging on Hive blog or Peak D, or they started playing Splinterlands. And they never really realized that there was anything else. They just were like, okay, I could blog and I might earn some crypto, or I could play this really cool trading card game. And oh, what do you mean it's connected to a blockchain? And those two things are, as you're mentioning, sort of this slippery slope. They're not really what you would immediately think of as onboarding vehicles, but this is how people both create marketplaces. This is how where people gather, which is what forms culture. And this is also where, again, if I love this game, or man, I made a blog and it actually earned more than I expected, and I'm totally excited about it, and I want to share it around the web, and I don't want Daddy Elon to disappear it out from under me, like that's enough to get people interested. So for Hive, the reality is what we're missing is we don't have the giant coffers of a corporate backing, or a founder, a specific founder who is charming or at least quirky enough to meow at a robot and get the entire world's attention. So we're working against that, and it's kind of this really fascinating place to be in, when we have these places that once people come, they're sticky, they love it, they stay, they come back, over and over and over again, and they start immediately exploring the next Hive connected dApp. Versus we see chains rise and fall. Boy, have we seen a lot of chains rise and fall in our time, who throw just so much money and hype, um, and can't really see it through. And then every time that happens, every other OG chain has to step up a little bit harder to overcome that. I'm going to say it, it's awful, but these corpses that are piling up in the path, we have to climb a bit higher.
That mountain got even a bit higher a couple of days ago with Mantra.
Oh, Lordy. And I just saw, I mean, I think it's bounced back a bit, but I saw that Base is trying to say, okay, well, bring all content on chain, and then immediately rugged like everyone. And that's wild. That's wild, because for us, that's, bringing content on chain is the number one mission, but it's very, very important to do it in a way that you cannot be rugged, which is specifically the purpose of our existence. So it's always wild to kind of see how people interpret what SocialFi should look like. What's the idea behind SocialFi? And most of the time, up to this point, what we've seen is, yeah, it's either tokenize your friends, tokenize a meme, and the requirement is you must hustle, you must bring more money in, you have to feed the Ponzi, and you have to find the best possible friends to prop you up or be your safety net when you need exit liquidity. And it's not sustainable, it's not fun, and it's not very human. It misses all the marks of why social media has shaped everything in our world today. We don't have to like the legacy media giants. We don't have to love I'm never going to call it X, the Twitters, the Facebooks, the whatever. We lost a good guy in Tom and MySpace. But these are things that shape culture. And if you think about businesses today, brands, outreach, sports teams, you name it, their entire presence in the world tends to come back to their social media presence. It's so important. So why are we entrusting that to these billionaires who keep making it more and more awful, right? It's not so great. Why don't we have a Web3 alternative? So that's kind of at the heart of what Hive is about.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you don't have like this big corporate backing. And I feel like it's a double-edged sword. It certainly is making your job harder, but I mentioned Mantra just because I watched CoffeeZilla's video interview with the CEO of Mantra the other day,
Mm-hmm.
and he brought up something. The CoffeeZilla, I don't know his real name, brought up something interesting when the CEO was saying like, "Oh, of course we like sold tokens to various and like investors and all that." He said like they owe you nothing. Like they will sell the tokens for a profit the moment they're allowed to, the moment that vesting period ends. and that could just tank your project. And that could go the same way for you if you had that corporate backing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw the absolute worst side of it. You know, obviously financially, that's bad, right? For the having being an early investor or whatever else is happening, you know, having that dumped on you, losing money, that's horrible. But beyond that, we weren't just seeing somebody kind of trying to take control of the token to dump. We saw somebody who basically wanted to buy an entire blockchain to do nothing with. It's still stagnant. It's a really sorry thing if you look at it. But essentially, they wanted to use it. Justin Sun wanted to be able to say, "Hey, here's 2 million more active wallets, and attach Tron rewards to Steem." That was basically the plan. Was one of the things that social really underlines, and that's really cool, and that exists to this day, is the reward mechanism on Hive is that anybody who is participating in the in the network day to day, who is participating in writing or just reading and upvoting content, is actually helping distribute the coin. It means that more people have more opportunity to get the coin. They don't even necessarily need to buy in. And what it means is our distribution is wild everywhere in the world, every socioeconomic class, men, women, we've got children accounts, we've got people who make accounts for their pets, you know, all of these representations, all of these people who are not fake, which obviously we're in a world where that's a whole thing, but who have actually used the coin and are continuing to use it, hold it, build up with it, and aren't gated from participation. It's it's amazing. It's such a valuable thing, and that was seen as, okay, I'm going to take that and I'm just going to take those stats and attach them to my coin. And what ended up happening was we lost, you know, control of the code base. The puppet witnesses that he installed basically were a bunch of block producers all run on one machine. So in one fell swoop, he actually knocked all of the decentralization out of the chain. You know, all of the things that make blockchain special and make crypto important basically got nuked in one go. And so it's why it's so important that Hive continues on, is that, yeah, we want people to have this opportunity to earn, to trade, to play, to connect, to live, to love, to do all the things that matter to us. But the flip side is, yeah, a really charismatic leader or somebody to eat the dog food when things happen. Now, granted, we haven't had any we haven't had any downtime or hacks or whatever, but part of that is by design, the way that Hive is set up. There's not a whole lot that can be attacked. Even our DAO mechanism is completely keyless and trustless. So we do have a fund for governance that, you know, funds a lot of different things. And that comes back to voting on chain. There's nobody in control of those wallets. So these things that we learned through this initial attack became sort of the central point of our ethos now. If layer one is this secure, if it can handle all these different types of transactions, if it encompasses all these different people, it means that anything you build on top of it is stronger. It means that if you want to build a centralized project on top of Hive or a hybrid project on top of Hive, you can, but you get all of the sort of inherent trustlessness and safety and security and transparency. All of those things at the base layer protect not just users, but builders too. And it's so important to us to maintain that sovereignty and that transparency and that idea of everybody belongs here. Everyone can use these tools. Everybody's a contributor, and you can build whatever the heck you want. It's cypherpunk as hell, honestly. And we'd like to try and underline that, maintaining that as we go forward.
So I have a funny feeling the answer to my next question is going to be the community. But beyond that, how does Hive compare to other blockchains? What allows you guys to build on Hive and not the other ones? What makes that better?
Well, it depends what you're doing. I mean, now people are going to have really strong opinions about this. And I think this is a good time to reiterate that even me, I am a community member who works in core operations. And a lot of the stuff that I do is funded by the DAO itself. We call it the DHF. Um, but there's a couple of things that we do differently that really matter. And up to this point, you really don't find all three of these things, and you certainly almost never find them at an L1. And of course, that is speed, that is type of information inside of your transactions, and that is fees. So most L1s, most base layers have fees. And, I've done talks on this all around the world about how, yes, Hive is feeless. You should not have to spend your assets to use your assets. That's completely freaking insane. No one is going to play a game where every time they click new turn, they have to pay a couple cents or even a fraction of a couple cents. So that's ridiculous. But we have a system that basically allows you to pay in time. If you stake Hive, resource credits are allocated to you. The network does all the math in the background. It's this automagical process. But what it means is at any time, if you want to unstake, you get your Hive back. You are never burning up the coins that you buy or that you earn or that you stake, which is super important. The fast thing is because we are a delegated proof of stake blockchain. That means we have hundreds of validators all over the world, hundreds of node runners or witnesses is what we call them, block producers, many names. But we have a consensus, and the consensus is the most trusted set of witnesses based on voting. Anybody who holds Hive can vote on this. And what it means is that our block production rounds are smoking fast. We have 20 block producers in consensus. They all produce one block a round. And then a backup witness is shuffled into each round as well. So on a daily basis, we usually see 100 to 150 different block producers, producing a block. Fast blocks means more transactions, means no waits. We have the ability for one block irreversibility. And I know we're getting a little techie here, but what that basically means is if you're streaming from head block, which you would need to do for a social site or for a game or for somewhere where good UX matters, that means that under a second, milliseconds in some cases, you'll have the information you need to put on your display. And then what was the last one? Now I've even run out of my own consciousness here. We got fast, we got feeless, and then what? I've forgotten.
I mean, those are some good
It's a
answers.
test.
Right? So
Sir, it's a test. What were the three that I said? Do you remember?
The gases, the speed, and to be honest, no, I don't.
You see, we got so far into the pattern. That being said, there's and the types of information in transactions. There we go. Had to jog my own memory. That is, most blockchains, L1s, can't handle larger chunks of data and different types of data, text strings, custom JSON, hashes, all sorts of encrypted memos, full blog posts, comments. All of these things are types of transactions alongside things like votes, follows, likes, all sorts of interconnective tissue and data that is represented at that same base layer. Most L1s are not equipped to handle that in any way, shape, or form. So those are the three big ones, is the types of information that we pass at the base layer, how quickly we can do it, and also the fact that it can be done without any fees at all in terms of eroding your assets. Those three things in combination make us really very different than what's out there. And in most cases, what most L1s are trying to basically abstract away to L2s. And in some cases, because L2s aren't even very good at it, into L3s. So for us, we don't necessarily think, hey, we're going to replace every single blockchain out there. We're going to wipe Bitcoin off the map, screw Solana. We have no desire to do that, if we're being incredibly honest. One of the things that I personally talk about the most when I go out with Hive is wherever you're building and whatever you're building, if you want to attach different types of value or you need different types of transactions and you want to have them be on a Web3 native stack, integrate Hive. You don't have to change anything you're doing, but you may find that you are going to build a custom tool set. You're going to use this L2 and it's going to, come back down and settle on that L1, but you're also going to connect it to a human readable wallet address over here on Hive. There's so many possibilities. And I feel that we're kind of at the point now where instead of continuing to create new chains and new chains and new chains and new chains to keep tackling problems, people who are really plugged into this space are going to look instead to grab the features they need from different chains, from different places, build a really great stack, and then hide all of that in the background so that people using these things feel more like they're getting a great product or a great experience, and they don't have to know how blockchain works. Let's be realistic. Everybody loves to say, hey, we're so early, and we are. But at the same time, the people who are the types to find crypto or to wander in, they're here or they're trying, or they came and got rugged and they left. So, normies, there are so many normies who aren't going to want to know this stuff, and they shouldn't have to. You should be able to kind of dive in at whatever knowledge level you want. And if your curiosity doesn't like drag you deeper, that doesn't mean you deserve less privacy or security or the ability to own your data or the ability to truly own your assets. You still deserve all those things, even if you're not a crazy hyper nerd like the rest of us. And I think that's where the future is headed. Big cross chain enjoyer over here, me.
And you brought up the feeless transaction. How does that work?
Sure. So I said we've got something called resource credits. And the way that I basically explain that when I'm out and about is think about the network. It has all these transactions coming in at all times, right? And traditionally, what you'll see is there's a fee, and the fee gets more expensive if there's more people transacting. Now, in Hive, that idea holds true because let's face it, somebody has to pay for a transaction. What we do though is we think about it a little bit outside of who has to pay for it in money, because our token is inflationary. So Hive has new Hive created every day, and some of that Hive is given to block producers who are securing the network. What that means is the money doesn't have to come from fees. But that also doesn't mean that we just magically make every transaction a free for all and everybody can transact all the time whenever they want. So, what happens is you have your block producers who are incentivized. They make Hive for securing the network. That's off to one side. Transactions coming into the network, anybody can transact. But if they don't hold any staked Hive, they have no skin in the game. The network goes, okay, cool. You can do a little bit. If you want to do more, stake some more Hive or wait. You have two options. You'll always be able to transact, but you may not be able to transact a lot if everybody else who's holding Hive is making tons of transactions. So our blockchain basically thinks like a giant load balancer. It goes, what's the most expensive computationally and how many of those things are happening? And it basically does all the math in the background. So once again, it's these crazy sort of complex ideas that are abstracted away from the user. But it gives people a reason to hold Hive. And in most cases, once you are holding Hive, you start realizing that you can use it to curate and earn more, or that you earn slow APR on it. So there are benefits to all of it. And what ends up happening is this feeless structure incentivizes people to stake a little bit of their Hive, which inherently leads them to some of the other benefits around the ecosystem. But why this is great is when you do unstake slowly over time, you get everything back. And you are trading, again, the ability to make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of posts or transactions a day. You're trading that, you're giving it back to the network, and you're getting your liquid Hive back. And you could do whatever you want with it then. So it works like a functional load balancer. And in some ways, you're paying. You're paying either in time or else you're vested in the blockchain, but you're never actually spending your crypto. And I feel like that's such an important distinction that needs to be made, especially when we're saying, hey, all of our services are specifically meant to feel like what you're used to. They're good UX, they're seamless, and we want frictionless things. We don't want to create a world where everything is clicking and you're watching your, fractions of a cent go down every day. That's not fun and it's not very human.
I've heard a few people come up with their own ideas on how to make transactions free. And it seems being cheap or petty, but the reality is it's such a barrier for new people or even if like trying a new chain, like if maybe I want to try a couple transactions on that chain, and I don't want to have to go through the bridging process and everything. And like you said, like, okay, if I want to try Hive and I don't have any coins, like I could wait, and maybe after a couple tries, that'd be like, okay, I need to buy some more Hive and I'm going to stake it and be more active. But that sort of free transaction got me there, and would probably get a lot of people there.
Yeah, and one thing that you touched on there, that, oh, I gotta wait. Like, nobody likes that either. Let's be let's be really honest. Like, nobody, if I try and post 2 or 3 times and I can't, I'm gonna bounce, right? Like, screw your place too. It sucks. So this is kind of a special part of delegated proof of stake. We have that D in front of our POS. And what that means is that you can share the influence of your staked hive. And this is a really cool add on that specifically kind of references, hey, people don't like waiting. And if you're brand new and you have the most bare minimum, 3 hive that's soul bound to your wallet, so it means that you can never, you never run out, like ETH, where if you don't have enough ETH to have gas, then you can't move your last gas. You know what I mean? That
Mhm.
horrible like recursive loop where you can't get money to move money, so you've just got money stranded in limbo. That can't happen on Hive. But in the case of this idea of, hey, we're going to have free transactions, but I have very little Hive, I can't do much, that's frustrating. The delegated part means that somebody who has a lot of staked Hive can actually lend some of their influence to you, and they can share their resource credits with you without ever sending you funds. So this all of a sudden is a non-custodial way for somebody to sponsor a friend, or what we see a lot of, and one of Hive's big use cases is a business, a product, a service who is onboarding users. Like, we're going to use Splinterlands, for example, comes to mind easy. Splinterlands has a new player. They onboard, they start playing, they're making transactions. They don't even know it, because when they're onboarded, Splinterlands holds a ton of staked Hive. And for every new user, they delegate a bit of Hive to them. And they've got, a process in the background that watches as that person grows their own stake and, builds their account. They pull back this delegation, and they've not ever let their coins out of their custody, which is awesome. They don't have to trust loaning coins to a newbie, but they also make sure that none of those stumbling blocks that get thrown in, whether by fees or by waiting, nobody sees that. And as you say, by that time, they're hooked. They get it. They understand. They start realizing, oh, I can earn a bit more, or, oh, I'm going to sell my cards. And they can choose then to stake that hive and grow their account. So this is something very specifically that a lot of our front ends do, our blogging sites, and frankly, people onboarding their friends. If I want to get, okay, I'm going to get Toronto DAO on chain, which is exactly what I wanted to do, and we just ran out of time. So I hope to see you guys posting soon about all the people that you talk to and all the chains you work with. I can sponsor you. I can, help you get your wallet address, and then I can lend you some of my Hive power, and I can, put that towards your account. You can do whatever you want with it, and I never have to think about it. I never lose control or security of my assets. But I can make things a little bit smoother for you. We can, again, abstract away and hide away the yucky parts that make blockchain unattractive when we're talking about doing day-to-day stuff.
So when you originally explained the free transactions, I was like, that's pretty cool, but I didn't even think about like what Splinterlands did. Basic, that's really cool. That literally
Mhm.
just have people who, what's crypto, can play the game and be like, you've been using crypto this whole time.
Basically, and that is honestly their number one user base. People love trading card games. Most people are not coming and going, I would like to play a crypto based trading card game. What normally happens is crypto people are like, ooh, crypto game, I'm in. But a normie goes, ooh, magic spells, and this feels a lot like Hearthstone, and I love it. And they start playing, and they have no idea that in the background they are actually building up blockchain based assets. If they want to leave the game, not only can they sell their cards, they could sell any other of the in-game currencies, or, they often start posting on like Splinter Talk, which is a forum site, which is again based on Hive, or Peak D, or starting to stream on, Three Speak, or one of our, many connected front ends. They start sharing their Splinterlands journey, and then they earn a bit more Hive, and they stake it, and they post more, and they use it to buy more cards. And it's this flywheel. And that's how social works, right? Think about the same thing. You are on TikTok and you see an affiliate marketing link and you click through to that. Everybody now is shaping a lot of what they do, where they hang out, what they engage with, what they buy. It's shaped by their social connections. So it makes a lot of sense to be using a blockchain that has a portable identity, that abstracts away all of the yucky fees, and kind of lets you do the things that you would naturally do being social on chain.
And so I feel like we have one of the answers to my next question with Splinterlands, but do you have any other favorite projects that are on Hive?
So, I mean, I personally am not I'm not a huge game player when it comes to like trading card games, which are some of the biggest, coolest games on Hive. There are other types of games. I'm a content creator myself, and I really enjoy creating and consuming content. So when I started, I actually really like the bare bones Hive blog. And I know anybody listening to this who's used Hive is probably groaning. But again, I grew up in the days of the old internet, the bulletin boards and the forums and the really like chill old structures. However, there are some incredible front ends that I highly recommend you check out, even if you don't want to post right away. One of them is called Peak D. It's a beautiful, feature rich, long form content site. People post incredible stuff there. Everything from photo blogs to recipes, full communities, incredible stuff. Also, another platform called In Leo, which looks a lot like Twitter, if we're being really honest. It was built to make microblogging and short form blogging available on the blockchain. And a lot of people actually use them alongside spaces to monetize spaces. They have something called threads, and they do threadcasts. So you can essentially live tweet along with your Twitter space and monetize that and drive engagement that way. There are quite a few more, if we're being honest. Anything you can imagine has been explored on Hive to one point or another. We've also got one more really exciting thing coming up, and that is VSC ecosystem, and that is our sort of first EVM compatible and smart contract layer 2. So I know we've talked a lot about how Hive is a layer 1. But it's its own layer 1. It's not an EVM chain. It's not the same as anything else out there. And so VSC is kind of exciting for us because it's going to allow people who are natively on Hive to swap into other ecosystems. And especially in this day and age, you've got, EVM, you've got Bitcoin, you've got one or two other types of chains. And they don't play well with others. And a lot of development overhead and partnerships that kind of come about is, oh, are you EVM compatible? Because I can add you in one copy paste. Oh, you're not? Oh, no, thank you. And so again, when we're talking about that sort of cross-chain maxi and crypto maxi ideology, that's kind of big for us because again, we don't want to silo anybody into one ecosystem, and we want people to be able to move their funds across chains. So VSC is really exciting. We'll be seeing the first liquidity pools coming online at the end of this month, probably in the next, I don't know, week or two. But that being
Ooh.
said, my heart will always belong to content, and especially beautiful photo content and travel content. That's where I started. One of the neatest things that's still out there is called World Mappin', and it is a geo pinning location service. So you can pin pictures, you can pin your location, you can pin reviews, or you can pin blogs to places you've been in the world immutably, and they will hold on forever. So people can come and browse your personal map, or they can browse the entire world map and find all different types of content pinned from people that relate to different spaces in the world. It's super cool.
And no, I think that's really cool. I have to admit I'm not the most social media person, but I do find like the travel stuff kind of cool. I'm more of a browser than a poster.
Most people are.
And your point. Yeah, and your point about the EVM stuff, it's the unfortunate reality, right? Like, so I'm not a developer, but I kind of dabble in it because I feel like someone in the space should have some basic knowledge.
Hmm.
And I only know Solidity. I
Right.
shouldn't say I know Solidity. I know a tiny amount of Solidity.
Right.
And so for many people, they only know Solidity, and it's the reality that you have to kind of make an EVM compatibility just to for developing purposes, right?
Yeah. And so with VSC, they'll be using WASM. So that is, it basically means you don't have to learn a complex language. You don't have to learn Rust. You don't have to learn Solidity. But the idea there is similar in that you will get all the benefits of the Hive blockchain from a security standpoint, and it will settle back down at layer one, but it will give you the ability to engage with smart contracts across other blockchains with your Hive assets, or engage with Hive, with your other assets. So it's just kind of a missing link that up to this point has definitely held some people back. And especially because for a lot of people, crypto has not been anything more than DeFi. And that's totally fine. The idea is people can do whatever the heck they want with their assets. And whether that's being social or not, you can still engage in the places and with the people you want. I think that's another kind of big part of Hive Social is most people aren't content creators. The idea that everyone in the world could get on YouTube and if they worked hard enough could get monetized is simply not true. Most people don't want to, and frankly a lot of people don't have what it takes to be a consistent content creator, and that's not a knock. Honestly, it's a slog. And even for me, as somebody who loves creating content, I write a couple times a year tops. Most people want to browse, they want to read, they want to look, they want to see, maybe they want to comment. And so how do you make that valuable or rewarding as well? And that's the other aspect of sort of Hive's mechanism, that reward pool where everybody that's engaging day to day, even if you're not a content creator, if you're a content curator, you are participating in the network. You are sorting through, you're finding things you like, you are contributing to, the social graph. And these are the things, if you think about any of the big forums or social media sites, for every single content creator, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people who shape what the platform shows you because they liked something, who shape where ad dollars are spent because they followed a specific creator, who shape what the algorithm shows or how people gather or where pages or communities are created because of the way that they engaged with content. And so on Hive, if you hold Hive and you also like stuff and you move around the platform and you're liking things, you actually can earn a tiny bit of Hive just for doing that because you are contributing to lifting up content that interests you, that's engaging, and helping other people kind of form these communities or interest groups or whatever the case may be. That's where value is driven across all of Web 2. So it would be foolish to say, oh, we can have Web 3 content and the only people that matter are creators and the only people that are valuable are creators. That's simply not true. And frankly, without all of the people who consume content on the internet would basically not exist. It would just be a bunch of people entering stuff into a database to be held forever. And obviously, that's not what the internet is anymore. So, recognizing the people who engage with content is just as important as rewarding content creators.
And that's good for someone like me. Like I say, I'm not like a content creator. For me, I don't actually mind being on the internet. Like I'm doing this now. I feel awkward taking the photos. I
Mhm.
feel like people are judging or something like that, and I'm just like, so when I do take a photo like in public, I'm like, snap, and it's done. It's like, well, do you want to see if it's good? I don't care. It's either good or it's not. We're moving on.
That's very man coded.
Yeah. So that's my big issue. Maybe I just need to get over that. But for now, I've got Hive to accommodate my shyness, I guess you could say. But we're running short on time. So is there anything else that we haven't covered that you'd like to talk about?
Gosh, we did. Well, I mean, we came a long way. We talked about Hive's history. We've talked a little bit about what the blockchain is built to do, some of the benefits, some of the cool projects. So you're right. We've covered an awful lot of ground. Um, Honestly, if I, can offer one thing, it would basically be that I hope that people listening take a look at maybe something built on top of Hive that might interest them. Because for us, that's the thing now. 5 years of growth, of slow and steady growth, of, managing to live through multiple cycles and continuing to be sort of this steadfast OG coin. What we need now is we need more people to use and love and help shape the things that are being built on Hive. So for us, it is one of the reasons that we're out and about is like, hey, if you want to check out a blog or you want to find a new game to play, or frankly, you just want to poke around and you want to take a look, we'd welcome you. The other thing is, if you have a project or a website or you're building on another chain and you'd like to kind of take some of your communications and use Web3 native tools, Hive's an awesome fit for you. You can basically pull your posts from the blockchain and plop them on a website or integrate them to an app. And, nobody actually even has to engage with Hive other than you. The ways that Hive tools can be used, they give you things like immutable and censorship resistant content. They give you the ability that if X goes down, you're screwed. But if a single node goes down or a single front end goes down, your content is always available to you. It opens up avenues for different types of monetization or creating brand loyal evangelists who are genuinely engaging with you, unlike some of the some of the ways that some of traditional social media has developed. But yeah, I'm really excited for what's coming down the pipe. We have another hard fork coming pretty soon. It may or may not be interesting to listeners. It's something that really centers around the Hive application framework. And what that basically means is tables that can be shared by everybody, which means that somebody who wants to pull information from Hive doesn't have to run a giant Chahonkin server to do so, doesn't have to worry about connecting to really clogged up API like often happens on Solana or other larger chains. And it gives you a lot of control and granularity. It means you can be fast, you can access resources, and it won't cost you a ton just to use what you've put into the network or other people's information in the network. So I'm really excited for what's happening next. And hopefully, we'll be seeing people at a lot more conferences. We've been expanding our reach. We've been visiting. We were just in Amsterdam. We're going to be in Dubai. I'll probably be in Singapore. I'm hoping to make it out to Toronto in the next little bit. So, if you're out and
Fantastic.
about, yeah, or if you have events, feel free to message either the Hive account or me. I would love to come hang and talk a little bit more or introduce you or your project to some of the open source tools that are available to you.
Yeah, in May 14th, we've got consensus for the only time it's going to be outside in Canada. This
Yeah, it's a
so
big one.
yeah. So super excited about that. And just to remind people, Facebook went down for like 2 days, like 5 years ago, and the whole world freaked out. So it's do you
Well,
remember that?
yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean,
When
it's happened with Twitter a couple times, and people don't realize the tendrils that Meta has because Facebook went down, but so did Instagram, and so did a bunch of other services. And yeah, it was terrifying. Now, imagine for a second if you could just switch nodes and it all came back, or you could jump to Twitter and all your Facebook posts were there. Magic, but completely and totally possible.
Yeah, WhatsApp is part of Facebook, and it took a while to get to Canada, but in Latam, like no one texted; it's all WhatsApp. So for 2 days, they just couldn't talk.
Yeah. Well, there's also the possibility of fully end-to-end encrypted on-chain messaging. I'm
Yeah,
not saying
that's
we do
cool
everything,
too.
but I am kind of saying we provide all these things. It's just It's just now getting more people enjoying them and using them. Our LATAM community is wild. If you are listening and you are anywhere in any of the Latin American countries, you should check out Hive because you would not believe how many people are there waiting to hang out with you.
Yes, I encourage that. You're right. It's huge there, especially in Argentina, and it's growing elsewhere.
Mm.
So we're coming up to the end. I just want to remind people of our Zeely campaign. So every week we give out a Zeely code. This week is no different. If you go onto the Hive space. All right, that got that through. Just put in Beehive, one code, one word, no caps, and get those points in and get that XP. Because we are keeping track of them, and we're keeping track of who are attending regularly to spaces, to events, and this is our way of doing that.
Awesome.
But yeah, thank you so much. I feel like we could keep this going for a few more hours, but I won't take up any more of your time. Because this has been like a fascinating conversation. And every time I ask you a question, you have so much information. And I say a tiny bit of information and you have like way more information on top of that. And it's just been fantastic,
I
very easy to talk to.
Well, thank you. I was going to say, I'm sorry, your girl's a talker, but it's one of the reasons that often I
Oh,
end up taking these really fun opportunities is because there is so much to cover, there is so much to talk about, and so many of us building are super passionate about it. And I can see actually VSC Ecosystem Virtual Smart Chain has hopped in as a listener right at the end. Wah, wah. But I did mention them at length in the middle of this chat. So when you are watching back, you can find them and follow them as well. Um, by far, the best thing that I can close this out with is you are valuable. Don't let somebody tell you that you are not. And you are allowed to control who you talk to, where you engage, and your own data and identity. Find the places that encourage that, find the tools that help you do it, and live the life that you want to live. It is super important, more than ever. And, hey, if you want Hive to be part of that, we got a lot of cool stuff for you.
Yes, thank you. That's very touching send off. I like it, and I feel like we should adopt something like encouraging like that as well here at Toronto DAO. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, guys. Have a good weekend ahead of you. Bye bye.
Goodbye.
You too. Bye bye.